you're watching Bophelong, a place of hope. My name is Pule Mulebatsi. Poverty and crime have a very intimate relationship. When dealing with poverty, one also have to face the issues of crime. Joshua Nkomo's story is one that best describes the relationship of crime and poverty in South Africa. From the age of 10, Joshua scraped for food and begged on the streets. When that failed, he resorted to pickpocketing and stealing handbags. That led to his first arrest, and that he served 27 years in prison. Joshua is now 47 years old, and now he is on a mission to redeem himself. We caught up with him, and this is his life after prison. Have a look at this.
Over the years, South Africa has been notoriously known for its high crime rates. Poverty shuns people by making them not only victims, but culprits of crime. As recorded by the South African Police Service, crime statistics from April 1st of 2012 to March 31st of 2013 indicate that violent crimes that cause the most fear and trauma amongst people are rapidly escalating. There's been an increase of 43 murders per day to 45 murders per day, and sexual offences have increased by 2.9% within our communities. Joshua Nkomo is no exception to the crime statistics. Growing up with 28 other siblings, an unemployed mother and drunkard father, Joshua and his family lived in abject poverty.
I was born in 1966, 12 April, in Mamelodi. So I came to Tuta, Beza, yesterday, 1968. I have 2 years. So I'm So I'm school la Komba Primary School. I'm told us one. I'm school la Komba Primary School. So financially, I think it was Baba is from Zimbabwe. And the city council.
Angry and hungry, Joshua resorted to pickpocketing his schoolmates in primary school, just so he can feed his hungry stomach.
So, and then when short is on Paris school, in short I'm a pen, I told the Kaya Indonesian was going after Sky City. School by Yavantana Kawa Tangeranga, and then to the school yesterday, Samara was a pila. I want to the so as Pilias George. La school and Nabakuza, to that extent, but we have a bam, goodbye, Kunuman, at bam, you get up George. So I was album is Varban Kuzile,
faced by circumstances of having way too many siblings, Joshua saw no reason to stop stealing, so he continued with petty crimes.
And then in West 10 in Vawa, West 10 Suga, Evanton in Basaka. We family right, just Sontayo. Babu school saying and right, no matter if it's
After being expelled from 2 different schools and constant beatings from his father, Joshua decided to leave school and run away from home.
Alright, Maritime, I feel like 12:30. I tell you, ngazi ukuthi maybe ukuhlupheka lokubesina kodwa oranjana aqala uphumendleleni mamthuma adla leyo mali leyo mana thina mina ukuya ngihambe ngicabanga ukuthi indlala ngoba besingaphili njengabanye abantwana.
While living on the streets, Joshua survived by stealing money and anything he could sell to buy food and feed his drug addiction.
So Boshagami, I tell Babisu Mama, Bambuza, Balandu Mama, Bambiza, Banging free pay. So when you got me free pay, thanks I take the court. Young Toras is one. And teaching things of Bosha in 12 years. Boshora, my bicycle, go on to our bicycles and I can't feel my thing is to the crew, but eating it being aiding and scatterless. Mangana crew, Mangana, Penny, Benga Kuru, young Toras, and telling about 80. So to the woodman, you know, my bicycles around like I know I take some wearing things and sometimes. Yeah, support. I'm told him to the Mariana and the old lab taking poop. Angithola ngisho kanjani ukuthi abantwana basikhaya bakwazi ukudla ngoba aweke impilo entakile kwehlakala and from then ngibuyele edrobheni yabona but always mangiza ngizangidoka impatho ezintsha yabona.
After several arrests, he was sentenced at the age of 14.
Ngaboshwa mina ngaboshwa ngo-1978 ngo-1980 ngagwetshwa yabona ngagwe 30 months ngagwe 30 months ngawubhanza 2 months ngethe 21 months yabona so impilo for mina it was difficult ngaphakathi kwejele. It was difficult la ngicaqala khona ukujoyina imember yegeng ngaba igangster ukuthi ngisurvive ngaphakathi kwejele ngaba i-big 5 yabona.
Iyo le tattoo na?
Yeah, i-tattoo nginayo yabona sona nayo imvala nginayo enkulu yabona. So after 30 months mangiphuma after that 30 months ngithe mangiphuma sesiwami ngizinto engizenzile ngi-7 21 months ngaba i-gangster ngaphandle la yabona. So ila kwenzakala khona izinto ku-rape siyenzani siphatha neyibhangu manje ngisiza ama-isbraga manje yabona.
After brutally killing a man, his best friend sold him out to the cops. He was shortly arrested.
I apologize emhlabeni wonke. Uzabukela le show le yakho sesiwami yabona ngoba kaningi asinto engakhulumeka ngathi le sesiwami angazi ne family yakhe if iyayibheka le show ifile kanjani but I apologize ngenxa yokuthi wena ufuna iqiniso le story sami. Sesitela I'm not proud ne so kunomunye umfana bathi uMos lo mfana la sokuze eSkandafu yabona so lo mfana lo ngiyambulala yabona ngithi kumbulala ngicamulikhana ngithi ngicamulikhanda lakhe ngalafaka eplastic ngalafaka pheyabekeni yabona so ngayekha kulo ngafika ngagogoda yabona ngathi ngithunyiwe angithi ngiyazi abangazi ngathi ngithunyiwe bathi uthunyiwe bana ngithume uMos yabona uthe ngilethele ishebe kangaka lapha kwetafula ngaphuma ngahamba.
Joshua Nkomo decided to change and give up the life of crime as he realized that it had no rewards.
Joshua Nkomo recently decided to reconcile with the victims of the crimes that he committed. We find out how he does that after the break. Stay with us. Welcome back to Bophelong, a place of hope. Before the break, we met Joshua Nkomo, who many perceived to be a monster because of the horrific crimes that he committed. Now he plans to reconcile with the victims that he had wronged. This is how he does it.
A neighbor, Samuel Mwema, was assigned to help reintegrate Joshua back into the community as he deals with others like him.
Ke ntse ke bolela le ba bang bona bo mara ba feta mantse ke bolela le bona ke re pila pila so ntse re khone ba le ba thuse re robala ba fitla ba tsena ba utshiwa o muitsing thata thata na ke mitsitse ha sne a tswa ka parola a tla mo gae so mo thomle o muitsi lo ba tlosulela ga re o mun o itse a sne a tswa be lore kana kwa ntsana le mathata lo tsa isa kopane pila so be lore o mo mukisa monna re ne
hayi khona manje since abuyile umuntu ngoba sikwazi ukuhlala naye and siyabonisana noma ngana next uyakhuluma ukuthi asithandazeni uNkulunkulu khona khona manje uright into enye nenye sikwazi ukuyishare naye akusafani nasekuqaleni.
Mr. Mwema believes and acknowledges that Joshua is a changed man.
Go motsaba ngare ne ba stay o ya ka tumelo yaka go skitse ya hore bontsi ba ba balenti ke ba lore bona ne ba sa moitsi bala bona motho no sa moitsi a ntju o ba free o le sole ka tla go morago go monga yena a tla re mo bona re jape motho ha lo ka bana le ya mo le sole ka thomo go tla moti.
I volunteer at the City Radio Station. I motivate people. So, ozwawo uzwile sister labo yayenga ubasanga kasanga sister labo. So bakhona abantu bangibiza ukuthi bukeng, bakhona abantu bangibiza kuphi yabona.
His sister expressed feelings of joy to have a new brother that is supportive and a perfect role model to his friends and peers.
ya khona manje unceda umphakathi omunye nomunye abantwana abagangayo uyabashela ukuthi crime ayibhadali umuntu omunye nomunye ogangayo uzobuhlungu ukwazi ukubamba omunye nomunye nemaphethe something ukwazi ukunika omunye nomunye ushare nomuntu into enye nenyayiphethe nathi la ekhaya usiphethe kahle.
After 27 years in prison, Joshua was embraced and welcomed back to the neighborhood.
Ngithi yangena isonto yabona. Yeah, ngisonto kaNkulunkulu yabona. But not isonto lomuntu. You understand? Angithola siswami. Yeah. But I'm a Christian. Njenga wonke umuntu. You understand? Because of mina ngibonile ukuthi uNkulunkulu uye ongibekela ngikhona ngalesi sikhathi.
Motivational speaking is one of his newly found passions. With 2 books out, Joshua has started a whole new journey. He has turned his focus more into his spiritual journey.
Mina ngifundanga siswami yabona. But uNkulunkulu nguye onginika idea engikwazi ukwenza incwadi. Ikamela ngibale sithothe noma. But yakhuluma ngempilo yami yabona. Ngingazile futhi ukwenza incwadi, i-second edition. Impilo yami. Yangithola siswami without education yangithola siswami and engathi uzibona zisole ngisho umuntu ubaba lo bathu bamathayilo uhlala eRandfontein uyonginika imali ukuthi ngiprintise incwadi nokuthi ngize ngicokele sonto uyibona ngicukile ngale ngikhuluma manje njengoba ngikhuluma nawe lengathi uzomunye umama bathi uJulia Mashele.
Besides his family, Joshua is also an uncle to his entire community.
Kuna manje ngabiza umntwana omncane umbuzo ukuthi mama ngizakutshela igama lami. Yabona umntwana abancane abangithanda abaphila ngabo. Idla madoda, idla. Idla baba. Umbheka ngalo umncane ngakanani? Mara umbuze. Kimango. Joshua.
Do share your thoughts with us regarding Joshua Nkomo's story. You can find us on our email address is bophelong@sabc.co.za or on social media we are at Bophelong Show. After the break, we look at life after prison for ex-convicts with Kissa Social Solutions. Stay right here. Welcome back and thank you so much for staying with us. You're still watching Bophelong, a place of hope with me, Bophelong. And we saw earlier on the story of Joshua Nkomo, who has turned his life around after serving 27 years in prison. And he is now on a mission to motivate others to choose a different path compared to the one that he has walked before. And with me on the Bophelong chair today is Leslie Ann Vanselm from Kissa Social Solutions. Kissa is a non-profit organization that focuses on rehabilitating ex-convicts and, of course, instilling morals to youth at risk and, of course, offenders and ex-offenders. Thank you so much, Leslie.
Hi.
I did say it right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yes. So with your initiatives that you have in place, how do you plan to rehabilitate the youth, especially the ex-convicts as well?
Okay, well, Kissa over the years, although we started off with focusing on offender rehabilitation, as we evolved over the years, we're now into our 18th year, realized that unless you start looking at what in the first place is causing crime, whatever you do about rehabilitating people is a mere addressing a mere symptom. And Joshua is a wonderful example, but he really stands out as a hero, because not many other ex-offenders have somebody who can help with restorative justice or have the wherewithal, the guts or the grit to actually go out there and really embrace what has happened in the past. So in terms of really dealing with crime, what we as our country in terms of dealing with crime, we as members of our country, in terms of dealing with crime, sorry.
It's fine, it's absolutely all right.
Yeah.
I think we kind of get the gist of it, that you work together with whoever's willing to turn a new leaf and they can come to
Not
Kissa.
really, no.
How do you plan to rehabilitate ex-offenders?
Okay, so because Kissa works in community systems now, looking at what's happened in the first place to cause an offender to commit a crime, we are now realizing how complex crime is and how many different factors contribute towards an offender actually entering crime in the first place. So we are looking now at what can we do to stop young people from needing to go into the shop to steal? What can we do to give young people the support systems and the chance to become engaged in opportunities where he can ask for bread instead of having to go and steal. And it's really about setting up a sense of Ubuntu amongst community members to realize that the young children here who are starving, and we have to support them. Because hunger, leading to 27 years behind bars, is really a loss of a life.
And Leslie-Ann, you know, with the instance that we saw earlier on, have the justice system failed Joshua, having to lock him up at such a young age? Couldn't he been just placed in a juvenile prison instead of a prison?
Over the past year, circumstances have changed among young offenders. Now, with the Child Justice Act being in place, a young child under the age of 18, if he's committed a minor offence, will not go behind bars. He will be sentenced to a program outside of the justice system and will be given a chance to make amends. He'll go through a therapeutic program, and on completion of that, he will have his charges withdrawn if he has complied with all the regulations of the service provider.
And you mentioned earlier on that you, as Kissa, you work with the youth. Instead of having to steal, you're looking at how you can assist the youth. With the case of Joshua, he was in and out of prison so frequently. What do you think are the underlying issues?
A person who goes in and out of prison is a person who does not have the right structures and support systems to enable him to embrace a new life when he is released. Because crime becomes such a way of life, especially behind bars, it's a university where people just learn more and more about crime. And unless offenders can come back into a systemic approach where the causal factors of committing crime in the first place can be addressed, they will reoffend. And that's why we have an 85% relapse rate in this country of people going back. And restorative justice, which is what he went through, is a crucial part. First of all, people restoring justice with themselves and actually coming to terms of who I am and who I want to be. And people need help to do that. You can't just do it on your own if you come from a disadvantaged family where crime has been a way of life with you. So an effective intervention is the first most important step. But for an offender to be able to go and apologize to his victim is probably the most empowering process that anybody could go through. But it's not easy. And often without the right type of mediation and the right type of support, it could backfire horribly. The victim could be totally re-victimized, and the offender could find himself where he's in a position where he's, he has not been able to make peace. So restorative justice is crucial, and it's becoming a very popular way of dealing with offenders, especially in terms of offender reintegration in our country now.
And looking at life after prison for ex-convicts, you have to go back to the community and you have to face those that you have wronged, and you have to go, most importantly, go back to the family that what you were once part of. How is Kissa able to work together with someone like Joshua Nkomo, who is slowly but surely regaining his life back and bringing back the people that were once so important to him?
Kissa's primary function is to work with NGOs on the ground, to assess where their needs are, and then bring in the capacity to enable them to render services such as the support that he has had. So the biggest problem is that there are so many ex-offenders who are so passionate to really, really help others, but there's a lack of funding. So because unfortunately, there's a huge lack of funding to really enable such valuable parties to be able to work with ex-offenders. So what we're trying to do now is to lobby for institutions and NGOs who are supporting ex-offenders to get more funding, to get more structure, to get more support, and most importantly, to link up with employment agents, where we can actually try to link them into gainful employment where they can generate income, because that's the most important thing, and to many it's just a pipe dream.
And Leslie, you mentioned the most important thing is being able to live, meaning you have to make a living, you have to find a job, and I can imagine it must be quite tricky to find a job once you've been in prison for so long. Are there special companies that perhaps are designed for ex-offenders? I know I came across one or two a couple of months back when I was preparing for today's show, and they, instead of housing the ex-offenders, they said you can come in and clean this place, and then, you know, let's cook for also the homeless children. We can pay you as an exchange of your labor. But are there many like that in South Africa? Because you said there's quite a lot of ex-offenders out there that are probably out there seeking for jobs.
The problem is that the institutions trying to help the ex-offenders do not have money themselves.
But what do we do? What do you think is the solution?
The solution is that, first of all, the South African community and business South Africa out there needs to understand that unless we help ex-offenders, we're at risk of being victims again. So ex-offenders and the perception around them has got to be changed. And the only way we're going to change that is by telling more stories like we've just heard now. Because that's a story of hope, it's ownership, he's taking responsibility, and we've learned to understand what happened. It started off with a petty crime, and you got enveloped in the whole cycle.
Yeah.
So we've got to get businesses out there to join forces with us to help look at employment opportunities. And most importantly, offenders are very, very, very entrepreneurial people. Somebody who's been a drug mule, or somebody who's stolen cars, or was a housebreaker, has spent a lot of time observing. He's got a lot of skills, and we need to transfer skills into entrepreneurship opportunities.
And with your experience with working with different communities, do you find that it's quite difficult for the community itself to embrace someone like Joshua?
Absolutely. The communities are angry. Crimes are increasing, and they don't want people like him back. The people are petrified, and to suddenly change the thinking of a community to say, this guy's been in, now you must accept him. It really takes a long time and a lot of work and a lot of convincing. And that's why the chance for dialogue and really to understand what we could have done differently. With me, the most important thing is if somebody has committed a crime is not to say, what did you do, but what happened to you.
Okay. Thank you so much, Leslie Ann. But before I let you go, please give your contact details and how people can get hold of Kissa.
Okay. My email address is info@kulisa.org.za, and our website is www.kulisa.org.za.
Okay, thank you so much once again.
Thank you.
And that's how we conclude today's episode of Bophelong, a place of hope. Thank you so much for tuning in. We're doing this again next week, same time, same place. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Goodbye for now.